Three words. Three simple little words. Unity, service, navigation. Those words have little to no meaning to ordinary sailors, but to the select chosen few, they mean everything. To a deck plate leader who is a chief petty officer, those three words mean so much more. Because those three words are what the few selected are responsible for to the Navy. Unity, being a chief is a bridge between officers and junior enlisted, as well as unite the chief's mess. Service, meaning service to one's God and country. A chief also leads by example while serving the sailors above and below him. Navigation, meaning a chief is expected to provide for each sailor and will show the new chief selects, who are first-class petty officers, the way and eventually welcome them into the chief's mess. The first person granted the rank of chief petty officer and given this awesome responsibility was Jacob Wasby, a cook's mate. He was pronounced chief cook on board the USS Alfred on June 1st in 1776 during the Revolutionary War. The first female chief petty officer was none other than Loretta Perfectis Walsh. At age 20, on March 17, 1917, she engaged in a 4-year enlistment in the United States Navy, becoming the first active duty woman, the first woman to enlist in the Navy, and the first woman to serve in any of the armed forces in a non-nurse capacity and occupation. On March 19, 1917, the Navy Department authorized enrollment of women in Naval Reserve with the ratings of yeoman, radio electrician, and other essential ratings as well, becoming the first branch of the United States Armed Forces to allow enlistment by women in non-nursing capacities. Walsh subsequently became the first woman Navy petty officer when she was sworn in as a chief yeoman on March 21, 1917. Later on in her career, she went on to become a naval officer. Another excellent example of a chief who created a legacy is Delbert D. Black. On January 13, 1967, the Secretary of the Navy announced Master Chief Black was selected as the first Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy. As such, he was the highest-ranking enlisted man in the United States Navy, serving as the enlisted representative to the Chief of Naval Operations. He counseled the highest Navy councils on problems associated with enlisted guidance, leadership, and policy. One last example of a great chief who left behind a legacy is John William Finn. He enlisted in the United States Navy just before his 17th birthday in July 1926. After briefly working with the Ceremonial Guard Company, he attended General Aviation Utilities training, initially working in aircraft repair and later became an aviation ordnanceman, working on anti-aircraft guns. By 1935, he had risen to the rank of Chief Petty Officer just 9 years after enlisting. Later on, he transferred to Hawaii. Just before 8 o'clock in the morning on December 7, 1941, Chief Finn, who was in bed with his wife Alice, heard the sound of low-flying aircraft and machine guns. On his way to the hangars, he caught sight of Japanese planes in the sky attacking the base. Chief Finn grabbed a .50 caliber machine gun and mounted it on an improvised tripod and set it up in an open area near a runway and began firing. After 2.5 hours of shooting Japanese Zeros, Chief Finn had sustained over 20 injuries, including a bullet wound to his left arm, a broken left foot, shrapnel to his chest, stomach, right elbow, and thumb, and a laceration to his scalp. Chief Finn did not leave his post until he received direct orders to go seek medical attention. He put himself back into the fight right after receiving emergency treatment by rearming planes as they returned. Chief Finn's heroism and bravery earned him the first Medal of Honor to be awarded in World War II. On September 15, 1942, Fleet Admiral Chester W. Nimitz awarded him the Medal of Honor for his, and I quote, magnificent courage in the face of almost certain death, unquote. He temporarily commissioned as an ensign in June 1942, eventually rising to the rank of lieutenant before retiring. Chief Petty Officers serving today are responsible for training both officers and enlisted members. They are there to lead junior sailors as well as to teach and guide new officers who are put in charge of divisions. New Chief Petty Officers are selected during what is known as Chief Season. Chief Petty Officers that are serving today are responsible for training both officers and enlisted members. They are there to lead junior sailors as well as to teach and guide new officers who are put in charge of divisions. New Chief Petty Officers are selected during what is known as Chief Season. Chiefs train junior sailors and prepare them because one day they will be the ones entrusted with the awesome responsibility of being part of the Chief Petty Officer mess. Chief Petty Officers are the bearers of Navy tradition and heritage.
I've had some chiefs that have been able to pull me up by my bootstraps and shake me into where I needed to be. And if it wasn't for them, I don't think I'd be here right now. They didn't have to go the extra mile, stay with me till 2300 at night while I'm trying to fix a boiler. They didn't have to drive me home when I didn't have a car. They were there.